I know this person is gonna bring it
Yeah.
because in the audition they brought it.
Right. All right. So, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mic'd Up podcast. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Kaya. I am an author, a poet, and an entrepreneur. And I created the Mic'd Up podcast to give a voice and shine a light to our creators within the Black literary community. And today I am pleased to bring on my guest. If you haven't heard her name or you don't know her name, you definitely know her work. She has made a great impact in the audiobook publishing community, and we are going to dive in. All right, so her bio reads, Jocqueline Protho is a native of Gary, Indiana, and a graduate of St. Augustine's University with a degree in broadcast journalism and religious studies. After college, working in human resources management for global corporations shaped her desire towards talent-driven roles. It was her love of books that directed her to the publishing industry. In January 2017, Jocqueline launched 3 podcasts, The Audio Flow, the Featured Voice Series, Booking Around Town, Love Inspired Series, and the Chatterbox YA. During its tenure, Jocqueline gained a following across media platforms of 6,000 plus. Her shows were broadcast on iHeartRadio, TuneIn, iTunes, Google Play, YouTube, Stitcher, and Spreaker. When the shows ended, she had recorded over 125 episodes. In August 2017, Jocqueline took a leap of faith and created the Audio Flow casting services, which grew into the Audio Flow LLC shortly after with 2 imprints and became a SAG signatory in 2019. With the Audio Flow and 316 Audio, Jocqueline produces and publishes top-notch audiobooks, which has earned her an Audie nomination, several Sovis Awards, Best Paranormal Audiobook awarded by Audio and Black, and other industry accolades. So welcome again.
Thank you. I know that bio is so lengthy. I'm always like, just tell people my name is Jock and I produce audiobooks.
There's so much more. It's so much more. I get it, but it's so much more. So we have a lot to cover today. So we're going to get into the Q&A, but before we get into the Q&A, I would like to first formally thank you, because this is my first time actually seeing you face to face, if you formally thank you for producing my very first audiobook, Love Like This Part 1, narrated by Jacoby Diem and Jay Shani Michaels. Your company found me. Mm-hmm. I was trying to do it on my own. I couldn't figure it out. I was at a dead end. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to not do it right now. And then that one fateful day, I saw your page on Instagram. It's the Audio Flow. Mm-hmm. Come up as a suggestion. And then I clicked on that and I clicked on the bio. And the next thing I know, we were working together.
It was meant to be. It was meant to be.
It had to be. It had to be, because I promise you, I was not looking at all. I was like, I'm done looking. Like this is too much trying to figure this out on my own. It just wasn't working. So thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. That book is the gift that keeps on giving. And I'm really proud of how it came out, and you got Jacoby Diem for me. So I remember
when we had that conversation and I sent you some auditions and you were like, yeah, they're, and I said, well, I could reach out to Jacoby and ask him if he's available. And you were like, what? Oh my God. It was like, I could feel all your emotions through the email. I'm like, yeah, I'll just reach out and ask him if he's interested.
Oh yeah.
And when he came back and he was like, yeah, I'll do it. I was just excited. I like to be the fairy godmother of audiobooks.
Mm-hmm.
And especially when it's people that are have not had their books published in audio yet, and it's like, what is your wish list? Okay, let's see
Right,
if we can
right,
make it
right.
happen. So there it was.
Yeah, so thank you. Forever grateful for that, because I don't think I would have been able to get him on my own as a unknown, if you will.
And
So
look at you now.
I
You know,
know.
congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so we are going to get in a little bit into your background. So in your bio, it says that you have your degree in broadcast journalism and
Mhm.
religious studies. What did you intend to do with your degree initially, when you got out of school?
Well, I thought that I was going to be a journalist, a television journalist. In high school, I attended a school called the Gary Area Career Center, which is basically part of the day you go and do basically like you learn trade skills of
Right.
sorts.
Okay.
And so I went to the career center and I took up radio and television, and we learned how to run the audio board. We produced our own shows, those type of things. And so that is what I thought I wanted to do with the rest of my life, until I learned that you gain 10 to 15 pounds on camera. As you can see now, I'm like gonna go and say what that is. And I was like, oh God, no, I don't want to be on TV. And
Oh,
then I said, oh God, I don't like my voice. It's bad saying, God, you don't like your voice. He gave it to you. But at that time, I was like, I don't think this is, what I want to do. So initially, that's what I was going to do. And I also thought about becoming a news reporter, because I enjoy writing feature stories and writing editorials. And it didn't work out like I had planned.
right.
So, I just kind of went off and went into human resources, after that. But I feel like the degree made its full circle back, still recording, still
Right,
using
right.
my voice. So it all worked out again.
Okay. All right. So, we got in your bio, we got into that you created the audio flow casting services. And
Mhm.
now, is it just the audio flow? Is it the audio flow?
Yeah, so originally when I started, as you can see, I started off as there's more things that got me here, but
Mhm.
when I went into podcasting, that's when I really got my foot in the door, or built my connections with the audio community. I built relationships with different performers, and had them on my podcast and things like that. So and before that, I was a book reviewer, and I was on a street team and all those type of things. So I had this relationship with the authors and the indie authors, and then I had all these narrator connections, and I was like, well, how can I bridge the two together? And during that time, there were so many indie authors who had not took that leap and ventured out into audio. And so with the podcast and talking to them, I said, well, here's somebody I think would be a good fit for this book, because I read it and I know their voice works for it. And so the first book that I started with the audio flow casting services was with Nikki Sloan, and she did her first contemporary romance book. And she was like, I really want to do this book, but I don't know, who to hire for it. And so she paid me to cast this book. And I said, this is fun, because
Mm.
I work in recruiting. It's the same skills,
Right,
it's
right,
just a
right.
different industry. And so that was kind of I think I really want to do this. And so it started there. I even made suggestions to authors about books that were being published by the big five,
Mhm.
or like Tantor, Podium. And I said, oh, you need to tell them you want this person. But I couldn't get credit for it, because
Right,
they considered like a third party. And so it was in the background. I'm like, okay, in my head, I know I cast that person. I didn't get paid for it or anything,
right,
but
right, right.
that was my work. And And then I moved on to production, and that's another story if you want to get into that. But that's how I started, and still casting is my favorite part of the entire process. So that will always be important to me, is the casting process.
Okay. Um, what question do you get the most from narrators and authors looking to get their looking to get their book on audio for the first time?
How much is it going to cost? I
Mm,
mean, money is always going to be an important key factor. So, before uh, people get, their hopes up or whatnot, I always go into, well, it's not going to be cheap. I mean, it can be very economical for you if you go these particular routes. But if you're looking for a good quality book that listeners are going to want to buy, even convince people who don't listen to audio will want to buy it, then you have to be able to pay for it.
mhm.
And so that's always the big question. How much is it going to cost? The second thing is that I normally get is I really want to do a duet or a multicast. Is that going to cost me more? Again, it's always a money question.
Right, right.
So I usually, when I do a consultation, I have a whole list of things that I go through, because I already know what questions people are going to ask. So I go through the process and everything, and then I go with, and this is how much it's going to cost, and this is how I think you can pay for it. So it's not just bam, it's going to cost you this amount of money. Here's what I think would be a good option for you to be able to make that happen. Another question people always ask me too is, especially if they're new, is what book should I start with? And that is a very important thing to think about, because you want to know, I always want to know, well, maybe you should go with your best-selling book. Which one is the one that people are always asking you about, or saying, is this book going to be on audio? Because you know that there's already people out there ready for it. Or
Mhm.
if you're not sure if you want to do that because it's a series and you're not sure you can do the whole series all at once, start with a novella. If you've got a shorter book that may be like a holiday romance or something that's pretty quick, you can get that done for pretty not as expensive, and it's kind of like a Kickstarter for, I'm branching out into audio and I'm going to use this book to market
Right.
my work in audio. So those are kind of the three top questions that people ask me most of the time.
Yeah, I know when I was trying to get mine done for the first time, completely green. I
Mhm.
really didn't have any sales. I really didn't even have an audience. All I knew is that I wanted my book on audio.
Mhm.
And because I'm like, this might just be the only time I do this. This might
Mhm.
be the only book. This might be the only audiobook. And not really knowing much about audiobooks, I was like, um, kind of not when I was talking to you, but I was kind of like got sticker shock when
Mhm.
I found out how much it actually costs to, to get the audiobook done. But once
Right.
I learned what you're actually getting, the quality that you're getting,
Yeah.
the mixing, the mastering, all of that
Mhm.
to have a quality sound, I feel like is worth it. But I already had an idea before I got to you. So
That's good.
when I did get to you, I wasn't like surprised. I'm just like, okay, to me it was an investment, and I look at it as
Mhm.
an investment in my author career.
Mhm.
And I feel like audiobooks are, I just call it the gift that keeps on giving, because they're just so dynamic. But yeah, okay.
Yeah, and it's the thing too, is it's a companion to your written work.
Mhm.
So the same care that you put into that paperback and that ebook, and then you can say, "Oh, I've got this in three different mediums for someone to enjoy." It just makes it that much better. And so I'm always, trying to persuade people to consider, audiobooks, because not only do I enjoy them, but I think it's just a benefit as being an author to have that available.
For sure. And it actually does crack open your audience. It cracks it
Mm-hmm.
wide open like you wouldn't believe. So
Yeah.
it exposes you to a whole demographic of people
Mm-hmm.
are not going to buy a paperback, who are not going to read an ebook. So
Mm-hmm.
it's very beneficial in that way. So my next question is, what questions do you wish like authors and narrators would ask you? The authors are asking you about how much it costs. What questions do you wish they were asking you?
What questions do I wish they would ask me?
Do you think that they should be asking you as well, not just price, like,
Right. I
or
mean, there's a list of questions that authors generally come prepared with. Um, I normally don't have a lot of people that are not aware of, audiobooks at all.
Mhm.
So it's not that they're 100% green. Like, I just don't know anything. I was gonna go with AI, and it's like no, but I I'm trying to think. There's really nothing anybody has ever not asked that I didn't think that they shouldn't have. One of the things that I do outside of, hey, I hope you work with me, I like to be a consultant. I might not be the best producer for everybody. That's fine. But, kind of understand where it is you want to distribute your book. There's more than one platform to go with. Do you want your books in libraries? Well, you generally can't just go to Overdrive or Hoopla and say, hey, can I have my book, in the library? They usually only do those in bulk. You have to have a certain amount of books in your backlist or in your category in order for them to accept you. So one of the things is to always, be able to ask that producer or that publisher, what's a good way I should distribute my book, or what platforms are available for me to distribute my book. If I want to, go exclusive, can I do this? Or if I'm going non-exclusive, can I do that? So there are those things that I wish people, would kind of ask more about, because people will get in their mind that Audible is the only way to get their, book out there.
Mhm.
But there's so many other avenues,
Right.
especially when you can keep the majority of your money
Yes.
that you invested into your book
Yep.
instead of it going out to other hands. I
Yep.
will say it that way.
That's the best way, good way of saying it. Yep. Absolutely. Okay. So,
And I want to say one more thing. Two, some people use platforms where they are able to create their own retail price. So I always, people should think about how much they should sell this book for. And I think people used to try to estimate, if they were going to put it on Audible, how much Audible was going to set it for, and should I try to be compatible with what it is selling, what it will sell for on Amazon or Audible, because a majority of people do still shop there. So that is going to be one of your biggest competitors, unless you're solely going to just specifically sell it on your own website or whatnot. So think about, one, how much money you paid for that book, how many audiobooks you need to sell to at least either break even or receive half of the money back that you put into it, and how much time you want to, what is your goal in being able to reach that amount. So those are statistics and things that I think people should also consider, or ask, how much do you think I should sell this for? My book is 20 hours. Don't sell it for less than $20 an hour. That's $1 per
right,
whatever. That's, so don't go in, I'm just going to sell it for 10 bucks or something. Why? It's a
right,
20-hour book. That's a
right,
lot of money.
right.
So, yeah. Know the value of your audiobook is
For
important.
sure. For sure. I agree with that. Um, what do you, well, we're we were just touching on what do you feel an author should have in place before they actually say, hey, I want my book on audio. But do you get like authors come to you with their manuscript that's not like professionally edited and things like that? Do you get that often? Like,
No.
oh,
I will not work with a manuscript that is not fully finally edited manuscript. I can't.
right,
If someone comes with the concept and they're like, well, this book is in editing right now, it's not done yet, that's fine, as long as when you're ready to start, I have a final manuscript. I can't in good faith try to produce a book that has not been properly edited. And I have, I want to say this politically correct. I have in our possession books that we acquire that I think are great, but they need a lot of editing. But because I own the rights to the book, I have to get it edited before I can do something with it, because I can't give it to Jacoby and be like, here's the book. And he'll be like, what am I supposed to do with this?
right,
And I've had this conversation with him. There's a book that he's, really interested in doing. I said, I can't do it yet because I have to get it edited. And so when I'm producing and clients come to me, that is in the agreement that it has to be a fully edited manuscript, because we don't edit. I'm not an editor.
right.
It's not up to the narrator to go in there. Of course, may be some, sometimes proofers miss things, and it's
Right.
like, oh, this word should have been that, or it was misspelled or whatnot. And we just make a note and send it to the author and say, hey, we noticed this. You may want to update it in your book or whatever. And we corrected this grammar because it was the wrong tense. And we go with that, but not to just cross out things and
Right, like a full edit.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
no, ma'am.
Yeah, I can imagine. Do you feel like when authors come to you to get their book on audio that their expectations are realistic for the most part? Because
Well,
maybe they say, "Oh, well, I want this book on audio. Can you get it done in like next month? Or this is my budget. Can you work with that?" Like, do you feel the expectations you get are realistic?
I think that expectations have changed a lot since when I first started, which was 7 or 8 years ago. Because again, when I first started, my expectations were different. I
Mm,
didn't understand the full concept of what narrators did, especially if they were doing their own editing, and they were mastering and they were proofing and all of that. And it's like, hey, it could pay you $100 per finished hour. No, like now it's like, why? Who would ever do something like that? So I always go into it providing what you think your expectations are, and here's what they really are. A lot of people do understand, I think, that audiobooks can take time. One,
mm,
because normally they do understand some of them. Again, people who are fairly new, I go into it with, when do you expect this book to be available for sale? Then I can backtrack and say, okay, if you expect this book to be available for sale, I need this, this, and this. And it's also going to depend on the performer that you select during the audition process, because most people are booked up way in advance. So if you're looking for somebody like a Jacoby or a Wesley, the year's done for them. Like, you're
mhm.
looking in 25 and almost probably the end of 25, because people get on their schedules so early, because they're working with indie publishers, they're working with trad publishers, they're just doing a lot of stuff. So the earlier I can talk to somebody, then I can give a realistic expectation of, here's when I can have this book done for you. People who are looking to have their books done by a certain time, if I can't do it, I'll just say in advance, that's not likely going to happen. If someone reaches out to me in September or October and say they want it done in December, that's not going to happen. It's just not. I'm not even going to try to give anybody false hope that book is going to be out for Christmas. It's just not. Unless you have me record it, which still not gonna happen because I'm slow as molasses, but it's just not gonna happen. And as far as the cost, again, like you mentioned before, and I tell people, it is an expense. You can go the route of attempting to do a royalty share. But if your book is 20 hours, good luck with finding someone who wants to do a royalty share book for 20 hours. It's just more than likely not gonna happen. And so you need to try to figure that part out. So the expectation is, yes, you're going to spend some money. You're probably going to have to wait at least, 2 to 3 months to have the project. And, that's what I go with. Now, I will tell you, I have done books and it's only taken me maybe a month. But that's because I start the process so early. And sometimes the narrators that I work with, they are full-time. And so they can look at their calendar and say, okay, I can record and have my files done in 3 days. There are quite a few of them that do that. So really my deadline for me is, once I get those audio files, what's my turnaround time to be able to get everything back to the author, which is generally 9 days. Don't know how many people can do 9 days. If it's a duet or multicast, then it's probably 2 weeks. So once the files are to me, everything is easy. It's just waiting for the performer to have their time to start. That's where the real nuts and bolts of it is. Hopefully that helps some of you out there to know why it takes so long. It's really just the schedule. It's the performer's schedule for the most part.
So what is your favorite part of the casting process when it comes to narrators? I know you said earlier, it's like your favorite thing to do is like your first love into it.
Yes.
What is your favorite thing about that?
Oh, again, because in college, I made this choice that I wanted to go into being a recruiter, and it was all because Disney came to our school and they got to travel around and they interviewed us, and I was a part of the college program, and I just thought, oh, what a cool job to be able to go to somebody, listen to them, and then make this determination to give them an opportunity to do something. And for me, casting is very similar to that. Yes, there's a plethora of people that I know that are out there that can perform pretty much any book. But it's also giving that opportunity to somebody who may be greener, or somebody that I haven't worked with before, or someone who says, I really want to do a true crime or a cozy mystery, and I see you have one and I haven't done one before, and giving them that opportunity to see them be able to flex their acting chops. And so for me, it's always like, okay, let me hear what this person can do. And they just really blew it out of the water, or they did something that I wasn't expecting, or they did something that I didn't even know I wanted or needed for that character. And that, it kind of just, I don't know, it warms my heart because it's like, I know this person is gonna bring it. Because in the audition they brought it, and it moved me. And that's what audio is supposed to do. You can read a book, it's the words, of course, first and foremost. The author has these words, they weave these amazing stories, but then you have this actor or actress come in and take that and interpret that and bring the emotion and everything to it, and it's a whole different experience. And for me, that's what I look for when I'm casting. It's like, who's gonna bring this additional experience to these words? And people like to say, oh, they bring it to life. Okay, yeah, they bring it to life, but they give you an experience and an emotion that you didn't think you could have when you read the book. That's what I want. Like, I'll read a book and it's like, yeah, I really felt that. But then someone comes and performs, and then it's like, I didn't read the book that way. This person did something totally different. So And I like to send the email, like, I send out these emails when someone has been selected, and it's like offer to narrate, and it's like, we really enjoyed your narration, you did
Yeah,
this and blah blah blah, would you like to
that's a good
accept? And they're
feeling.
so excited. And
Yeah,
I like that, especially when, not to downplay any of my seasoned performers, but people who may have less than 50 books, right? And then they get this offer to work with, a best-selling author, or an author that they really enjoy reading. And it's like, hey, we selected you. And just the joy that they get makes me
yeah,
happy.
yeah. Well, that's awesome. And I'm sure you've given a lot of people an opportunity to like really show up and be seen. So I'm sure they, really appreciate that. So it's good that you still get that feeling of, I found this person that's going to be great.
Right.
Good that you still have that feeling, because that means you're still enjoying what you're doing for sure.
I
Uh,
do. And I love that I've been able to be a lot of people's first. So that's always fun too. It's like, oh, I did my first audiobook with you, and then you see them off doing all these other great things, and it's like, I'm glad that I could be a part of your journey. So that's a good feeling too.
Yeah. Yeah. What has surprised you the most about being in this audiobook publishing space? Whether it be with the narrators or with authors, what did you kind of not see coming? It could be good or bad.
I mean, it's a, like, I'll start with the good part, because in most industries, you have a good collaboration of people that are very supportive. And I would say that too about this space, is that it's a very supportive space. It has drama, just like every other industry. There's drama, and it's how you deal with it and how you recover from it, and you move on to make changes so that those different dramas don't happen again. And that again goes along with the support. It's like, okay, this happened, how can we support people who was affected, and how can we make changes so that it doesn't happen again, and how can we still continue to make sure that people trust us with being able to do the work. So that is important. And then one of the other things is, um I used to be this fangirl when I
Mhm.
first started. It's like, oh my God, I got to be such and such, and oh my God. And then it's like, but they're just a person. They're just a person. But I realized that the majority of narrators are such humble people. They don't they don't get the they don't get the I'm this great person. A lot of them that I work with don't, because there are some that are, that can be kind of, I don't audition. If you want me to do this, just send it. No, I still need you to do a script read, okay?
Mhm.
um but for the majority, they're very humble because they know this is work for them.
Mhm.
And um and they want to remain professional. And once you finish your job, guess what? You're out of work, and you've got to go back out there, and you've got to find more work. um the thing that I think surprised me most about authors is, um over the last few years, I've seen more of them not just produce them because they think that they have to, but because they want to. And when I first started, there were people who were doing them just because they thought they had to, because, okay, I'm just going to do it. I don't really care who narrates it, blah, blah, blah. But
Mhm.
now I feel like they're more engaged and more a part of it, because they've learned to understand the benefits and even enjoy listening to some of them, even if it's not in the same genre that they write in.
Mhm.
So I like that there's this evolution of acceptance of audiobooks. And like you mentioned, there's a whole different demographic and fan base of audio listeners versus book readers. They usually do not cross over. So,
Yeah.
and I like that more people are trying to be a part of it. Back in the day, we called it we had bloggers. Now we've got influencers who
Mm.
are really getting more into audiobooks, and we didn't have that before. So I like that there are people, especially in the Black community, because we've been kind of, people don't do metrics on how many audiobooks we listen to a
Mm.
year, or what genres we're listening to, or what influencers we have, because we've got a huge community, and we didn't have that a couple years ago. We might have 2 people.
Right.
So it's changed so much, even with platforms like yours. There were maybe a handful of podcasts that were even talking about audiobooks at all. Maybe 3. There's like 3 of us. And now you've got all of these different ones, and I just love it. The more the merrier.
Yeah.
There's room for everybody.
I agree with that for sure.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, you do all genres. You publish all genres. Is there a particular genre that's like close to your heart that when you get one, you're like, oh, I love doing these? Or you just kind of get excited about what you can do with each project?
Well, both of those are right, but I love children's audio. I love children's and middle grade because, one, because I like to. People talk about casting authentically. I like to cast kids, and last year we did a middle grade audiobook, and I was able to cast children to perform the book, and that just made me remember why I fell in love with reading when I was a kid, why I enjoyed when my teacher would read to us, or we would do little skits and we would perform the books, and how much joy they got out of it. And that for me is like an epic experience, even though I don't know how many kids listen to audiobooks. That I don't know.
Right.
But it just is like, just to be able to have it available, and maybe parents purchase it and they're going off of the summer and they're listening to a book that everybody in the car can enjoy. I love that. Now, as far as what do I personally like, it's interesting because we do a lot of romance titles. I love romance titles. I love contemporary. I love humor, romantic comedies. In audio versus TV, because on TV I hate them, but in audiobooks I love them. But I'm really a psychological thriller person, which is interesting because I don't do that many. I would love to do more suspense because I always like the different emotions that people can play in their voice, because the narrator knows what's going to happen, but they can't tell you in their performance at the beginning what's going to happen. So I'm always like, oh, I just love those type of books. But with each project that I do, I enjoy the experience because all the writing's just different.
Okay.
And that performer is just going to bring something different. So I'm always like, oh, we should do this. Like when I work with my sound engineer and it says this person said it in unison, I'm like, okay, and here we got to make sure that these 3 people say it at the same time, and you need to edit it together so there's this real unison thing, or they say it at the same time. So it gives that extra experience of what the written word says, and now you can hear it in your head. So
I love listening to audiobooks. Once I started, I think maybe 3 years ago, I got heavy into it. 2021. I started working from home, and you're by yourself. So it was like, I'm used to being in an office environment where, I'm dealing with customers, I'm dealing with coworkers, and now it's just like silence. So for a while I was listening to music, got tired of that. Then I started listening to self-help books. You kind of get tired of that. And I was like, I want something entertaining.
Yeah.
And so I just went on Audible and I just typed in Black authors or whatever I typed in, and My first audiobook I listened to was a Stephanie Nicole Norris
Mm-hmm.
audiobook. So that was the first time I heard Wesley and Jacoby.
Uh-huh.
I was just like, what is
Right.
this? Like, it was like a whole experience. And what a great duo for me
Mm-hmm.
to have experienced for my first audiobook, because at that point, like, I was sucked in. I could not, not listen to audiobooks at
Mm-hmm.
that point. It opened up a whole new world to
It
me.
just takes
So,
one good one. One good
yeah,
one. And then it's like the saying goes, it's never as good as your first time. There's other ones that you're like, oh, that's great. But I still remember that first audiobook I listened to.
yeah,
I still remember what they did. I still remember that one point where I was just blown away, like, I want that.
yeah,
And then you go down the nice rabbit hole of what other books did they do? What did
yeah.
they do together? What did they do separate? And then it's all over after that point.
Yeah, for a long time, for me, it was Wesley Jacoby, for a long
Uh-huh.
time, because it's just like they really did transport me in that
Mm-hmm.
story. And I'm like, I wasn't even aware that stories were being told like this.
Mm-hmm.
I just wasn't even aware. So it really like inspired me.
Yeah.
I did get an opportunity to meet Stephanie Nicole Norris last year, and
Okay.
I told her about that. So that was nice for me to have that full circle moment with.
Yeah,
But yeah.
definitely.
Mhm. So I was gonna ask you, we've been talking about the process of what authors can expect and what narrators can expect when they're working with you. Let's get into the communication part of what you do, because what you do is primarily communication based.
Mm-hmm.
Communication with the author, communication with the narrator, performer. Um, how do you keep the communication where you need it to be? And what do you do if you are working with someone who's not being communicative? How do you deal with that?
Oh, geez.
I know. I know.
um, Communication is very key in the entire audio production process, and it's not just from the narrator standpoint with me, or the author standpoint, or client rights holder standpoint, but also with the whole team. So there's the prepper, if it's a duet or a multicast, there's the proofer, and then there's the audio engineer. So I am basically a project manager. That's what a producer is. A project manager, everybody, in case you didn't know that. Like, we wear 5 hats, but it's all delegating and managing a project.
Mhm.
So I normally do not have any issues with communication with an author. I did once when I first started, and I never had that problem again, because you live and you learn. And yeah, you just never have that problem again. But I feel like I try to communicate as much as I can as far as what's going on. In my consultation, I let people know, once the narrator has started, you probably won't hear from me much, except this person has started, which is, I tell you in advance when they're going to start recording. And once they've done recording, it's in proofing, or it's in proofing, and we're mastering files and all of that. But they don't hear from me as much once we start the process. Now, the performer, we have to touch them more throughout the process, because, of course, as you know, once they complete the narration, then there's proofing, and then there's the pickup package. So sometimes people are less responsive in the time frame that is contractual in getting back to me with those pickups. And I am a very nice person until I have to be professionally aggressive. And that's the term I like to use, because I don't ever want my actions to be outside of being professional. But I'm also a business owner, and when people put me behind schedule, it makes my client behind schedule, and I don't like that. So when I get to that point, I'm making several attempts to contact somebody, and when I don't get the response, then I have to go to stage 3. Okay, you don't need to know what that is, but stage 3, I'm gonna tell y'all, almost stage 3 is like, this is a person that's gonna be on a do not hire list. And it's unfortunate because that normally means that has happened more than once. And if it's a one-off and it's like, okay, this project, and if someone communicates to me and say, hey, I've got this going on, I'm sorry I'm behind, that's fine.
Right.
Communicate with me and tell me. You don't have to tell me your business, but as a contractor for work that I'm hiring you for, you have to tell somebody when you're going to be late with something. Not the day it's late, not the day after it's late, but before. You already know in advance it's going to be late. So that is a pet peeve of mine. If you ever go on Facebook and you hear me talk about stuff like that, it's because somebody pushed me to a level 3.
Have you had
and so at that, and I mean, there's some, and it's like, okay, I just want you to finish this project, but and I will tell them, unfortunately, we won't be able to work together. I'll even tell the client, if they want that person, that unfortunately I don't work with them. I don't tell them why.
Right.
Not all the time, but sometimes I will say things like, well, this person has shown to not be timely sometimes, and you're on a schedule, so maybe we should look at somebody else. But if you've got time and you're okay with, not having a set deadline, it might be able to work. But honestly, if somebody's on my do not hire list, I will say, well, unfortunately, I don't work with this person, anymore. And I hate when it gets to that point, but I'm a business owner.
Right.
I try to pride myself in leaving a cushion for deadlines so that if things do happen, I still meet the client's deadline. But now when you put me in a situation where I'm behind, that does not bode well for me. So I want the communication with myself and the performer to be pristine. And I even put that in my contract. It's like, you've got to communicate to me. If you don't, this is what happens.
Right.
So, but people don't read. Unfortunately, you have a job where you read for a living, some people don't read the contract. And then I have to go back and say, see section such and such number 7, or G says. I should say that everybody read your contracts. It's important.
Yeah, that's a very unfortunate part of what you do, because I know when you do offer someone a job, you offer it in good faith.
Yes.
And I know that has to be disappointing when that happens, especially if the person is probably like a really great performer.
They're good. And that's the thing. It's like, you can be good, but if you're not professional and you don't communicate, it makes your good performance null and void to me, because it's a package. People could say, Jock does good work at the audio flow, but she sucks on communicating, or her work is always late, even when she said she was going to have it to us and she doesn't say anything. Then all my good is now evil spoken of. Nobody won't even, you go to a good restaurant, the food, it was good, but the service is bad, you're not going back.
Right.
It's unfortunate. So
yeah, I understand. How have the relationships you made within this space inspired you?
Oh gosh, I mean, even from my podcast days, or days being a reviewer, a book reviewer, or whatnot, I've kept those same relationships with those same people, and it's just grown since then. And it inspires me because I can look back and say, I was just this person who was just sitting home after having a surgery, just reading an indie book, and I could see how that author has progressed. I can see how certain narrators have progressed, and I'm like, they inspire me to keep going, because we were all at the same place. Not the same journey, but at the same time we were starting where it was that we were looking at going. And when I see, authors get movie deals, or their shows going to TV, or they've got the narrator they wanted or something like that, I'm like, I'm so proud of them. Or they get an award. Like, my inspiration is my awards. They're back there. It's like, it inspires me because I got to work with some great people who've had great words, and the performers are the ones that helped me get best casting director. So that's my inspiration. And that the industry just keeps growing, even in the midst of AI. Even in the midst of AI, there's still people who are like, no, human voice narration only, because they believe in us and what we do, and they believe their words should be performed by somebody who can give that emotion.
How do you feel about AI narration?
I hate it. I hate it. That's the easy answer that I can give to it. I am a firm believer that people have the right to make their own choices. I'll start with that. People have the right to say, well, I'm just going to do AI because this is cheaper or whatnot. That's their choice to do so. People who listen to those books, that's their right to do so. The audio flow will never use AI voices. Me personally, I will never buy an AI audiobook. But I also want people to keep this in mind. When you go on TikTok, if you go on TikTok, people use AI voices all the time, and people don't talk about this. They will put up their little content and say episode whatever. That's an AI voice. It's not the content creator's voice that's reading that. When you go on YouTube and you watch these little part 1, 2, it's not really a documentary, but just like info, whatever. Those are all AI voices. And how do you know they pronounce stuff wrong all the time? It's like, I heard one, they did not say Beyonce, they said Beyonce. I was like, yeah, that's AI. Nobody ain't catch that. Like, nobody. They just pronounce stuff all wrong. And it's like, but nobody is talking about those people using AI. It's always the audiobook. So if we're going to have this idea about AI and narration, we need to think about it in all aspects, because it affects all of us, humans, in the art space and other things. And it's just being forced now.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you've got the whole meta chat where you can usually just search, oh, I need to find this person. No, ask Meta. No, I don't need to ask you anything. I'm just trying to get to somebody's page. Yeah, but it's just annoying.
It is. You're very, very correct in it being forced upon us. And it is very irritating. I have not listened to an AI book. I don't intend on listening to an AI book. That's just my choice. I just don't feel, number one, I support human voice narration. I quite enjoy putting like narrators, performers having those jobs. I quite enjoyed that.
Yeah.
But also it's just like, for the stories are being told, unless it's like a direction manual, I don't see how you're going to get the emotion or the connection, or have the story being told the way the author intended it for it to sound. If you're using that, I don't see how that's possible. I haven't listened to it.
Yeah.
But I can only imagine it would be very lackluster. Like, yeah.
And that's the thing about technology, is that they're trying to fix that. Well, where you can't tell. And unfortunately, I feel like that's what they're going to, especially with the way that we just found, when apps ask you, is it okay to keep your voice, use your voice for such and such? How many times do we read the fine print of what they're doing with our voice? And now it's coming to the full front that you realize, hey, they are using your voice, and this is what they've used it for, to be able to find out different emotions and tones in your voice and things like that. And so we have probably helped AI more than we even realize that we've helped them. Even to the little point of when you type something in Facebook, you don't even have to finish what you're typing. Predictive text is like, oh, this is what you want to say. You don't have to wish anybody happy birthday anymore. We've got all of these different versions of what you want to say already. And so it's taken away us being able to have to think.
Yeah.
So sure. You don't even have to think anymore because the AI is going to do it for you. And you're like, oh, that's right. That sounds good. And the more that we continue to do that, the less we're going to need our brain. Unfortunately.
It's scary to me.
It is very scary. And even things like, Dropbox. It's like, oh, we've got this AI. And Google, oh, we've got this AI. Everything's got AI. And it's like, well, how do I opt out of it? You can say you opting out, but are we really opting out of anything? It's just disheartening.
That's a good word for it. It is disheartening.
Yeah. My job, just think about it. My job is affected too because people, if they go with AI, who needs a producer? In 50 minutes, their book can be done. They pick a voice, Charlie 1 and Samantha 2. Oh, there's their duet book.
Ain't no way. I don't think your job is in jeopardy. Let me just say
I hope not.
I don't think you're in jeopardy at all. So,
and I'm glad you said that because I had a client I'm working with. We're doing this book next year, and I went through the entire prep for a multicast and everything that we do for prep. And she was like, I couldn't have done this with AI. Who could do this with AI? Look at all the details that was done, all the characters, the summary of what's happening in each chapter, who has what voice, whose age, what chapters it. Nobody, AI can't pick that up. And so there's, like you mentioned, if it's a textbook, there's even narrators who like to do things like that as well. Do I think AI has a purpose somewhere? Sure. But not in this particular space with this. So.
Yeah. All right. Let's drag ourselves out the AI.
Okay. Yes. Done with AI.
A whole other
another podcast.
For sure. So, so what do you consider your career? Some of your career highlights as an owner of the Audio Flow?
Oh gosh. I mean, I've done so much in such a short amount of time, I think. This year in March, actually the last couple of months, I've been looking online trying to see what other Black-owned audiobook publishers are out there. And I couldn't find one. Female, except me. And I think for somebody who was born in Gary, Indiana, who was termed murder capital of the United States for a long time, where people feel like it's poor and no good things come out of there. For me to be able to say I was the first Black female audiobook publisher is a great highlight. I guess that would be the word. I can't even believe saying it. It just sounds weird to me.
That's a great accomplishment. Definitely a badge of honor. That's how I introduce myself. Be like, oh, my name is Jock. I'm the first Black audiobook publisher.
But it's one of those things. I didn't even think about it until we were doing Women's History Month, and I was like, I can't find anything. There's another publisher, I think they're like $150 or something like that, and I was like, okay, Black owned but male, and I was like, but there's no female audio. There's producers, but there's no publisher. And that is probably going to be one of the greatest accomplishments that I would say I have achieved in my lifetime, because who's talking about that though? Like, nobody's talking about that because they don't know. Nobody's looking for it. I don't make $1 million. I'm not a billionaire or anything. I just sit over here in my home office and do the work. But for me, that's the biggest accomplishment, and being able to be able to say, all of this happened because of God. I am a firm. I ain't gonna get, spiritual or religious or anything, but that's how I live. That's how I live my life. It's, what is it that you want from me? What purpose does the audio flow have? I ask myself that all the time. And I feel like I am directed to those things and what I'm supposed to do. And as long as I follow that plan, I will be successful and I will continue to accomplish what I achieve. And also being able to help my authors and my clients achieve what it is that they want in their audio production. That is the biggest motivation to me, is that they get this project back and it makes them cry, or it makes them laugh, or they're happy and excited about it, and just like, I'm so glad we work with you, and I just love everything about this book, and the listeners love it. And that makes me feel like we accomplished that goal for that project.
For sure. I can tell you, when you did my book, the first files I got were the Jacoby files. And I was just like wanted to hit the play button, but I was like, I don't, I was just so nervous because I didn't know, I had to like hype myself up, and I hit the play button and I jumped out of my chair. I had to stop and jump out of my chair. I was so excited and overwhelmed and emotional and like giddy. And it was a whole flurry of things, like hearing it for the first time. It's just like, it's something that I still really enjoy, even now that I have a few more under my belt. I still get that feeling when I hear them files come in. I just, hitting that play button. It's just such a gratifying feeling. And I think that is great that you're able to help provide, us authors with that feeling, because it's just something that, I carry with me, because it's just like, I didn't know if that was going to be the only one I did, and everything just sounded great from head to toe. Like it was just such a good quality produced audiobook. So
I love it. And the support that they both gave. And when he did a chat in DM's Diamonds, I think, and he had mentioned about your book, and you was like, and you were like, oh my God, I can't believe you mentioned my book.
I remember that, because he was just, I asked the question, he was like, Kaya. I was like, what? Like, you were like, because I know he does like a lot of stuff all over the place. So, and I knew that had been like months ago.
Right.
By the time that, so I didn't have an expectation that he would even remember like the look of my name or the sound. I didn't know. So when he did that, I was kind of like, what? So that was a really cool moment as well.
It was.
He's such a nice guy. Like,
he really is very professional. Very good to work with.
Completely, from top to bottom. Professionalism. Professionalism.
It makes it that much better.
Oh my gosh. And that actually goes into my next question. For a narrator, performer, voice actor who is looking to have longevity in this field, what attributes do you feel they need to have?
They need to continue to cultivate their craft. There's always going to be things that changes. There's always going to be opportunities to continue to improve and take classes, to make connections, maybe go to a convention or something like that. They don't have to go to all of them, but like maybe pick some things they want to go to. I think that they should learn to create relationships with not just clients or potential clients, but also other performers. There's so many people, when I talked about the support, sometimes a performer may get an audition for something and say, I don't think I'm the right voice for this one, but I know such and such, they might be one. Ebony Flowers, she had went on a hiatus and she couldn't do a book for me, and she was like, but I have a friend that's looking to get into audio and she does such and such and such and such. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, let me reach out. So that's how I found Jay Shawnee Michaels, was through Ebony Flowers. And she was like, follow up with her. And so I had her do an audition, and I was like, oh, I fell in love with her voice and her performance and everything. And so we started this relationship, and and so I like that aspect of it. Is, again, you have to have these relationships. You can't just be on a silo out there on an island by yourself.
Right.
And also, I would say, make sure you know what you want your brand to be. Some people who start out early in narration, they will take on projects that, well, I'm just going to take this on because I'm new. And then they get stuck in a genre they might not be technically interested in.
Right.
Yeah. And so just know your brand, and it's okay to say no to things that you don't really feel is the area, your niche.
Right.
And so that, I think, gives people more longevity in their career.
Okay. I have a couple more questions for you. If a voice actor is interested in being on your call list, if you will, do you call it a call list, or?
I don't even have one. It's a roster. I used to have a roster. I even have a website that says, interested in working with us, join our roster, which I should get rid of because I don't have a roster anymore. I used to, but then the roster kind of, it does two things. It's like, okay, I can't hire you unless you connect with me, which is not true. And then I just really don't keep up with that big spreadsheet. I just can't. So I am very organic in hiring. I will go on TikTok and I will say, I'm doing a casting announcement, and I'll just go on there and I'll talk about it, and I'll say, this is how you audition. Or I'll go on Instagram and say, hey, I've got a casting call, and I'll put it out there. Or I will go through my email list and say, who just emailed me and said they were available? Okay. I'm going to email them this script and see if it's something they're interested in. Or I have a list of people that I want to work with that I haven't worked with yet, and I come across a book and I'm like, oh, I think they would be great for this, and I send it out. So I do a whole lot of different things when it comes to casting. I'm very non-traditional. So people want to reach out to me, follow me on social media and send me a note. That is the best way to stay in touch. Yeah.
Okay. So this is something that I actually kind of just thought about when you were, I just thought about this aspect of what you do. I think one thing that authors need to realize is when you're producing a book for them, they get that book, they own that book.
It's very important for people to understand the difference. I think that perhaps maybe newer authors may not have as much experience with the difference, those things that you mentioned. So for traditional publishers, for instance, like your Podium or your Tantor, which are like the two major indie, I would say, audiobook publishers, they usually will go to the author directly and present an offer to acquire the rights. So they will say, I will give you this amount of money for the book or the series, and then you'll receive this amount of royalties for this period of time. Now, most of the time, sometimes it says that you will start to receive your royalties after the book has made back the advance and the cost of production. I don't know if they both say that, but that is normally what it is. So let's say if I advanced you because I don't math well, but let's say I advanced you $1,000 and it cost me $5,000 to make the book. That's $6,000 that I have to make back before you can start receiving your 15 or 20% off of net sales. So think of how many books that they need to sell to be able to do that. So they take a chance too at purchasing titles that they know that they're going to be able to get their money back, and do so. So that is a great thing. It's like, oh yeah, I'll sell it for that. But also keep in mind, if they think that your book can make that, guess what? It can, and you can keep all the royalties yourself because your book is that good. And even though you are probably going to have to come out paying for it, but you'll make it back because obviously they believe in your book enough to know that you can get the sales without really doing any advertising, because Lord knows they don't do it much for our books. Yes, for us, it is just basically hiring us. It's a work for hire, basically. You're hiring us to handle all of the production, and you have full ownership of your book to do whatever you want. You want to put it on a CD, even though people don't have CD players anymore, you could do that too, or a flash drive or whatever. So there's those options.
Yep, and I do want to point out that if an author does decide to do traditional publishing, there's nothing wrong with that. I just
Nothing
think
at
it needs
all.
to be aware of, what goes into traditional publishing, on the back end as well as the front end, because I think the front end is very appealing. Like, hey, we'll do this, we'll do that, but on the back end, when those splits come, you're like, well, I thought, I was gonna get a little bit more than this, and it's just know your options is all I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to discourage one or
Yeah,
encourage the other, but just make sure you know what you're getting into. Ask questions, reach out to
definitely.
other authors who publish traditionally, publish in, indie, and just get their opinions before you take that leap, because either way, it is an investment. It is part of your catalog, and it's part of your brand. So I just say, look at both sides and just make your decision based on that.
Exactly. And know what your goal is.
Mhm.
What is your goal? Is it, and I ask this question too when I acquire books, is do you want more royalties or do you want more of an advance? Because you're going to spend that advance. But if you're going to go with royalties, then for a period of time, you're always going to have this income coming in, and then after your term ends, you can decide if you want to keep that or you get your rights back, and then you can go back and republish it if you want to or whatnot, because usually you won't own those files and those audio files anymore. They stay with the publisher. So again, things to remember as well.
Mhm. Yep. So make sure y'all asking questions before
Read the
you
contract.
before you make a decision. It's all an investment if you ask me, but just make sure you're doing what works for you.
Exactly.
My last question I have for you is, what is next for the Audio Flow? What projects do you have coming up, as far as business extensions or anything like that that you can speak about?
Well, I just returned from a cruise in April. It was audiobooks at sea, and I had a fantastic time, and I had an opportunity to do a session called Jock's Casting Cabin, where I did auditions on the cruise ship, and I cast the 95% of the cast from participants who were on the cruise. So I am looking forward to that book coming out probably sometime later this year. It's called Kamikaze. It's about a guy who is on the he's on the spectrum, and he is looking for a wife because his cousin, who is like his sister, is terminally ill, and she gives birth, and he promises her that he would raise the daughter. And so it's just really about him finagling with finding somebody to marry that's going to understand him and all of this stuff. And I'm looking forward to that book. But also for later this year, we are finishing out the Witches of Salix Point series by Noelle Vela. I'm excited about what's happening at the end. The third book kind of left me like, wow. So if you haven't started that series, definitely want to pick that up. And then next year, I am working on a project that I mentioned to you earlier. It's called The Once and Future Queen, and it is a retelling of Guinevere and King Arthur, but it's from a Nubian aspect. So I will be fully casting that with an all-black cast, and we'll be starting auditions for that coming up really soon. So those are some of the things that coming down the pike, and I'm sure there's others, but those are the top things I wanted to bring up. So looking forward to what's next.
Very good, very good. Well, that's it for my Q&A. It's been delightful.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. How have you been? Have you been enjoying the podcast so far? You've been enjoying yourself, having a nice time?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay, good.
I love to talk. I'm a broadcaster.
So now we're going to move on to a little bit of a game. Now, I want to play this game with you, and normally you play with different players and this, that, and the other. And I played this game when I did a podcast with 4 narrators. It was Miles Washington, Alexis Stewart, Alex Monroe, and E. Kojo Andrews.
Okay.
The game is called Urban Trivia. And this,
oh Lord, I lost already. I lost, y'all.
You'll be fine.
Don't y'all take my black card.
I'm just gonna pull some, and I want to see. I just would like for you to get to 5 points, and then 5 points is just you answering it correct. So,
Lord.
Trivia, you'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Okay, y'all.
So this is the Urban Trivia game.
Okay.
And it's just urban trivia, if you will, but they're pretty reasonable questions. But this game caused a riot when I played.
I'm scared.
Do not be scared. These are very friendly questions. I just
make it easy.
I'm just shuffling the cards up a little bit. I told you I got accused of cheating, and I wasn't even playing. It was a mess. It was a mess. Okay. Just 5 points. I think you'll be all right.
Okay.
Okay, first question. Which famous singer wrote Every Little Step I Take by Bobby Brown? Was it A, Bobby Brown, B, Babyface, C, Devontae Swing, or D, Teddy Riley?
Really? How am I supposed to know who wrote the song he sang? It was Bobby Brown. I don't know. It was Teddy Riley.
It wasn't. It was Babyface.
Really? Who's supposed to know that? Like, who knows writers? Really? It should have said who sang the song.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Hold on.
Well, she should have said you just need to get 1 point. 1 point.
Let's go for 1 point.
Oh, that's some good encouragement, Kaya. Thanks.
I still think you can get 5 points. Hold on, I got these cards in here.
I said make it easy.
I'm gonna try. Okay. Okay.
I feel like I hear in my head, womp womp.
No. You got this. Okay. You should. Okay. I think this might be a good one. Okay. Whether you like them or not, your mama or granny made you eat these 2 things on New Year's Day. Was it A, mac and cheese, B, black-eyed peas and greens, C, ribs and beans, or D, chips and dip?
B. I eat black-eyed peas and greens every New Year's.
All right, there we go. See, I told you.
It's a food question.
You want to try one more?
All right, yeah, let's do one more.
Okay. I'm trying to find.
And my mom does not eat black-eyed peas or greens, so it was definitely my granny.
Okay, you should get this one.
Okay.
Kyla Pratt starred in which UPN TV show? Was it A, The Parkers, B, One on One, C, Homeboys in Outer Space, or D, Cuts?
One on One.
Yes, 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 yes. Okay, so you did good. You did good. It
I
was
like that
all right.
show.
Yeah, I love that show too. So not bad. I
I
think
made it to 2 points. 2 out of 3
2
ain't
points.
bad, y'all.
Yeah, 2 out of 3.
I bet
So
you I'll never forget that Babyface wrote that song now. So
please
thank
don't.
you.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a fun game. Family friendly. You can play with the whole family. So I just wanted to do a little something with you
I
before
like it.
we end it out. Do you have any final parting words before we close out?
I want to say thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of Mic'd Up. And I love what you're doing. I love that you are continuing in the work to bring your words to the audiobook community. And I hope that this podcast will be successful in what it is that you want for it to do in the community, and that you have more and more guests and listeners. And yeah, I just want to say thank you for allowing me to come on and talk about myself, which I don't like to do often, but every now and then.
It was great. Thank you for your kind words and encouragement. I really appreciate that, and it was really great having you on and getting to know more about you and the audio flow. So thank you again
Thank
for
you so
coming
much.
on. So this is the end of our podcast. I want to thank everyone for tuning in and watching, and I will see everyone on the next one. Bye. Sleeping in my bed, messing with my head.